Kursk isn't that strategically important. They've taken some land back, but then the Ukrainians have made gains as well. And as I say, that figure of about 20% has remained broadly static for 2 years. And the Ukrainians, as I say, they're doing an amazing job holding the line, defending their country, and things are not good for the Russians, clearly.
Thank you so much for joining us. We are now recording. Just tell us, first of all, I mean, you're just back from Ukraine. It's been a really uncertain time for the war. Explain what you've been doing out there.
Well, I'm back for a couple of weeks, mainly working, but some leave. I've been working predominantly based in Kyiv, doing things like weapons procurement, accompanying foreign delegations. I met some of my former colleagues when I first went back in January. I've also been out to the east, to the Frontline, taking part in some drone operations, some logistical stuff, night patrols. So I've been kept busy, and it's just over 3 months now, but it's gone really quickly in a positive way. I mean, it seems like I've been there much longer.
As a former MP, what made you decide to go and fight with the Ukrainians?
Well, I worked and did a lot as much as I could do in Parliament. And about a year ago, maybe a bit more now, I could see the political landscape and realised that there was more than a prospect of me not being re-elected this time. So I thought to myself, well, if that doesn't happen, I want to continue to help the Ukrainians and the cause the best I can. And I thought about, a charity, and I was doing some charity stuff already. But I thought ultimately, if they would have had me, I would have end up serving in the military. So that's what happened. I spent a couple of months, doing the wind up my office, looking after my team and sorting all that out. But ultimately, I knew I'd end up serving in the Ukrainian military.
And what would you say morale is like on the front line, or indeed amongst the other Ukrainian forces that you are working alongside?
It's inspirational to see the Ukrainian forces operating in the way they do. They are absolutely resolute and defiant that they're going to continue fighting. I mean, they are. We tend to see a lot of terrible things in the media, and obviously noises off from across the Atlantic. But the Ukrainians aren't losing. They're actually successfully defending their country. I mean, Russia occupies 20% of Ukraine. That hasn't really changed in the last couple of years. And the Ukrainian military are doing an amazing job, defending their land and keeping, the Russians at bay. Among the civilians,
Although the Russians have retaken some territory, haven't they? They've retaken that area of Kursk. They're now making further incursions across the Ukrainian border there.
Kursk isn't that strategically important. They've taken some land back, but then the Ukrainians have made gains as well. And as I say, that figure of about 20% has remained broadly static for 2 years. And the Ukrainians, as I say, they're doing an amazing job holding the line, defending their country, and things are not good for the Russians, clearly. Either.
And this comes at a time when there is huge uncertainty about the future of US support. President Trump, at the end of last week, was saying he could take a pass, perhaps on the efforts to try to broker peace, but perhaps more widely. How concerned do you think the Ukrainian forces are that they may not get some of that vital equipment and those weapons from the United States?
Well, I mean, overall, European nations have given more money and more support. There are some bits of kit which the Americans can only really supply. But ultimately, what President Trump doesn't seem to understand is the Ukrainians are prepared to continue to fight. I mean, everybody wants the war to end, of course, but they will not have a stitch-up imposed upon them. And, the administration, I think most sensible people in the administration realize that. They are fighting for their existence, their survival, and their freedom. And they are continuing to do that, and they will continue to do that. And the European nations collectively are beginning to do a lot more than they were previously, which was a lot anyway.
And President Putin announced that brief so-called Easter truce on Saturday, which appeared to be broken almost immediately, and certainly didn't seem to lead to much respite. I mean, is there any sense in which the Ukrainians think that President Putin is serious about peace?
Putin doesn't want peace. I mean, you only have to see what's happening to Ukraine on a daily basis within the cities. In Kyiv, the air raid siren goes off several times a day, a couple of times during the night. Drone attacks are constant, ballistic missile attacks. Putin doesn't want peace. He's thinking at the moment he's in a very good position in as much as his narrative seems to be being parroted in Washington. He thinks he can just wait out. It's all about resolve. He thinks the Ukrainian resolve will fold with the Europeans folding, and he will get what he wants eventually. He is completely wrong and mistaken. And as far as what we think, and I'm serving in the Ukrainian military, there is no way that Putin's interested in peace. And the quicker the US administration realizes that, the better.
And how much concern do you think there is on your part, and indeed those Ukrainians that you're fighting alongside, that President Trump seems to be rather too willing to believe what President Putin is saying?
Well, I mean, it's just astonishing that, we saw the debacle in the Oval Office, which was a disgrace. We've seen some of the language. We've seen that, the Russian narrative being used by the US. But as I say, it's difficult to try and guess or anticipate what Trump will say or do next. That's part of his character, I suppose. But, he needs to realize and wake up that the Ukrainians are not going to just give up or have a stitch-up deal imposed upon them.
We've got more talks taking place tomorrow. Marco Rubio is going to be there with senior figures from France and other allies. Do you think that Britain and its European partners should be prepared to try to make up for any shortfall that there might be from the US in future?
Well, they may have to, and I'm sure they are making plans along that basis. But there needs to be a lot more action, a lot quicker. I mean, the capability, in theory, could be produced. The equipment could be produced. The troops potentially could be provided, even though I do worry about the scale of which any peacekeeping, and even that phrase is not agreed upon, I understand. But, the European nations obviously understand the threat. And I think without doubt, they realize that if Ukraine were to lose, it would result in a bigger, wider war with NATO, potentially. So, yeah, I mean, they're going to have to. But they're going to have to really speed up their action.
You say that Ukraine will not accept a stitch-up. It seems that at least the Americans have already made it clear they believe that Ukraine will have to sacrifice some territory, will have to give up perhaps some of those parts of Ukraine that are already occupied by the Russians. Do you think that Ukraine has accepted that?
Well, I mean, those are matters for the Ukrainian people to decide. But it seems to me that all the concessions which the Americans are asking for are being asked for by the Ukrainians. I haven't heard of anything that Putin has to agree to, or any guarantees, changing his narrative, changing his objectives. So that it seems to be very one-sided at the moment. But as I say, if you look at what's being produced in Ukraine, I mean, Ukraine produced 3 million drones itself in the last year. That will increase to probably near 5 million individual drones produced in Ukraine this year. Their indigenous, their domestic defense industries are now producing probably somewhere in excess of 40% of what they're actually using. That some people say it could be nearer 50%. So the Ukrainians themselves are gearing up with their expertise in their industrial capability. So they are digging in. They're ready for the long haul.
And are you confident that the British government is in it for the long haul?
Oh, definitely. I mean, we signed a 100-year agreement, I think, a couple of months ago. So absolutely. And I'm very proud of what we've done. I'm very proud of what we're doing. And on Ukraine, I do question some of the commitments to increasing defense spending. I think we need to do a lot more. But I think, I think the British government's doing what it can. And yes, we are in it for the long haul, whatever it takes.